And here we go. Welcome to a brand new episode of The Keith Lee Show. Thanks for joining us today. I'm so glad you're here with us. If you're listening to us on the podcast, please be sure to like and subscribe. We are available on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you get your finer podcasts, as I hit my microphone. And if you're listening to us or watching us on YouTube, please be sure to like and subscribe. Smash that like button. Smash that subscribe button, as everybody always says. It's over the top, but hey, what are you going to do? So thanks for joining us today. So apparently, no-knock warrant is the new hands up, don't shoot. We just got some breaking news in the Breonna Taylor case. And apparently only one of the police officers is going to be charged. And I think if you listen to what happened, rightfully so. According to the news, according to the Daily Wire, a grand jury on Wednesday indicted a former Louisville, Kentucky police officer on 3 counts of wanton endangerment in the first degree and the death of Breonna Taylor, a black woman who was killed during a no-knock raid on her home in March. Sergeant Brett Hankinson escaped more serious felony charges related to homicide from the grand jury. Wanton endangerment is the first degree. Wanton endangerment in the first degree is a Class C felony that carries a maximum possible sentence of 5 years in prison. His bail was set at $15,000. No other police officers involved in the raid were criminally charged. Officer Miles Cosgrove and Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly were on the scene during the shooting, and Mattingly was shot in the leg and underwent surgery after the police operation. Now, race-hustling attorney Ben Crump, attorney to the Breonna Taylor family, said on Twitter that the charge was not fully what we wanted, but added, "This brings us closer to justice," because apparently Ben Crump and the rest of the Black Lives Matter morons believe that these cops murdered Breonna Taylor while she was sleeping ever so peacefully in her bed, which we now know that was not the case at all. In fact, we've seen plenty of reports that not only was she not sleeping in the bed, that she was actually in the hallway. She got caught in the crossfire, started by her boyfriend. Okay, started by her boyfriend. The media is out there saying, "Oh, she was an EMT. She was on the straight and narrow." All BS. All BS. Because not only was she under investigation before, but the guy she was with and the guy that the police were looking for were also under police investigation. Okay? In fact, the guy who they were looking for in the house that wasn't there, he was arrested and I believe is in jail. Okay. Because, yes, even though she was an EMT, she has a brand new Charger, brand new house, flashy clothes, yada, 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 yada. And we have her accomplices, and there was some leaked information that came through from Officer Brandon Tatum, good work on his behalf, that the police officers believed her to be a holder of the money. You know, she was very smart. She wouldn't keep drugs in her house per se, but she was definitely holding money. And the guy that the police were looking for was indeed arrested for drug charges. Okay, so it's an unfortunate situation. When she died, she got killed. It's a terrible thing. But the reality is, she would be alive today if it weren't for the fact that the guy she was sleeping in the bed with shot the police officers. Okay, that's what happened. We go on. Hankinson was fired from the department 3 months after Taylor's death. Then Police Chief Robert Schroeder wrote that Hankinson violated standard operating procedure when his actions displayed an extreme indifference to the value of human life when he wantonly and blindly fired 10 rounds into Taylor's apartment. Now, that was pretty bad. There's no way around that. You can't go firing blindly into somebody's apartment. But it's not murder, and it wasn't intent. It certainly wasn't any sort of racial connotations behind this, which is what this whole thing, let's face it, the only reason people are even paying attention to this is because supposedly, yes, this is another example of police brutality, another example of white racist cops descending upon a young, innocent black woman who's doing well for herself with brand new cars and apartments and clothes and money and yada, 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 yada. The result of your actions seriously impedes the department's goal of providing the citizens of our city with the most professional law enforcement agency possible, he wrote. I cannot tolerate this type of conduct by any measure of the Louisville Metropolitan Police Department. Your conduct demands termination. So the police officer was indeed fired. So we have some sound clips today from a very impressive man. We saw this guy speak at the Republican National Convention. The Kentucky Attorney General, Daniel, what's his name again? It's escaping my brain. Daniel Cameron. Daniel Cameron, a very impressive individual, and the left hates him because, oh my God, he's a black conservative. Oh my God. And now all the black people hate him even more because they were hoping, oh, was this black man going to make the right decision? Are we going to charge cops for murder even though there wasn't any evidence of that? Even though now we know that this wasn't a no-knock warrant? Now people are going crazy all over Twitter, all over the country, because here's this coon-ass black man didn't charge these police officers with the obvious case of murder. Listen to what Daniel Cameron has to say. This is what the facts, these are the facts. This is what actually came out. This is what the grand jury heard. The grand jury decided not to charge these people, these police officers, with murder because the evidence did not pan out. The evidence of supposedly her sleeping in her bed and being murdered as a peaceful assailant or as a peaceful member of the community, a wonderful, young, upstanding individual in the community, was not factual. Listen to Daniel Cameron.
Evidence shows that officers both knocked and announced their presence at the apartment. The officers' statements about their announcement are corroborated by an independent witness who was near in proximity to apartment 4. In other words, the warrant was not served as a no-knock warrant.
Very important.
When officers were unable to get anyone...
Very important. Okay? That was the initial news that came out in the media, and of course, all the leftist mobs ran with it. This was a no-knock warrant. A no-knock warrant, cops having a disregard for black lives. And how many times? We've seen it for months now. When are we going to have justice for Breonna Taylor's murderers? All these celebrities, Taylor Swift, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Kerry Washington, every other leftist moron, calling for the heads of the murderers of Breonna Taylor. But how many times do we got to go through this? Okay? And the reality is, no matter what happened today, you're going to get rioting in the streets. And I just saw a video just now of U-Haul trucks being delivered to downtown Kentucky where people are offloading, bats and hammers and all kinds of destructive equipment to riot tonight. How many times are we going to allow the drive-by media to stir up all of this chaos, to stir up all of this nonsense when nobody knows the facts? Nobody knows what actually happened in this situation. The media is only playing into the narrative. That's all they care about. The narrative is more important than the facts. If they can push the narrative, and you can get the rubes and the mouth breathers to go around and tearing down the country, then the media has won. And then they can go and blame the president. The Democrat Party can go and blame the president. Really disgusting stuff. And who gets affected by this? Not them. Not the media here in New York living in fantastic doorman buildings. They don't have to worry about their buildings being burned to the ground. Or the celebrities living behind their walls in Hollywood. They don't have to worry about their homes being burned to the ground. But if you're living in a black neighborhood, and quite frankly, a lot of these riots are happening in black neighborhoods, the call for getting rid of the police and defunding the police is only going to affect black neighborhoods. Again, there isn't a ton of crime happening on Park Avenue, but there's a shit ton of crime happening in East New York or in the Bronx. But let's disband the cops. Listen to the rest of this clip. Very revealing.
To answer or open the door to apartment 4, the decision was made to breach the door. After breaching the door, Sergeant Mattingly was the first and only officer to enter the residence. Sergeant Mattingly identified 2 individuals standing beside one another at the end of the hall, a male and a female. In his statement, he says that the male was holding a gun, arms extended, in a shooting stance. Sergeant Mattingly saw the man's gun fire, heard a boom, and immediately knew he was shot as a result of feeling heat in his upper thigh.
Yeah, so Breonna Taylor's boyfriend shot first. He shot first after the cops announced that they were breaching that apartment. This was not a no-knock warrant. They breached the door, and this guy was standing on the other side of that door with guns pointed at the police. Those are the facts. That's what the grand jury heard. He continues.
Kenneth Walker fired the shot that hit Sergeant Mattingly. and there is no evidence to support that Sergeant Mattingly was hit by friendly fire from other officers. Mr. Walker admitted that he fired one shot and was the first to shoot. In addition to all the testimony, the ballistics report shows that the round that struck Sergeant Mattingly was fired from a 9mm handgun. The LMPD officers fired .40 caliber handguns.
There it is. There it is. And the great thing about Daniel Cameron, the Attorney General, he went on to say in that same press conference, we were going to try to get the clips, but we had to go live. We had to go with our episode here. He gave a wonderful speech about trusting the justice, trusting the process, waiting for facts and evidence to come out before you start making a determination. He mentioned directly all the celebrities that have been for months calling for the heads of these supposed murderers. But nobody knew anything. Nobody knew anything. They only pushed what they wanted to believe. This country is indelibly racist, horribly racist. Every single cop that puts on the uniform is looking to kill young, innocent black people. That's what the media pushes. That's what the left pushes. That's what all your favorite celebrities push. But nobody knew any of the facts in this case. But it doesn't matter. It didn't matter. They got what they wanted. Protests. They got what they wanted. Businesses being burned to the ground. The opportunity to blame the president for all of this. Breonna Taylor's death is unfortunate. It really is. But to suggest that these cops need to face anything just because of the narrative, just because it fits the political motive is evil. And how many times do we have to go through this? Nobody knows a damn thing about the facts. Nobody knows a damn thing about what happened. And of course, when the cops are not charged, or when the cops are charged and they go through a trial and they're let go, they're acquitted, oh, here comes the rioters. We have to, listen, when you're talking about race, okay, when you're talking about race, the most evil thing on the planet, you need to be sure. There are too many people out there, like the attorney for Breonna Taylor's family. This is the same attorney who's been around for all of it, from Trayvon Martin to Michael Brown, et cetera, et cetera. A race hustler like Ben Crump, okay? This guy is making mad money, mad bread off the backs of lies. And every single case, every single time, this guy pushes those vicious lies that do nothing but harm black people. That's disgusting. That's evil. And there's no room for that in a civilized society. This is a country this is the only country in the world that has fought a bloody civil war to end the practice of slavery. This is a country that got rid of Jim Crow, that got rid of segregation. This is a country where people sacrifice their lives every day in our military and right here at home with our police. They sacrifice every day to keep us safe. The last thing our men and women in uniform need is to be called racist, is to be tried for political nonsense, just to help one side of the party, one side of the country win their political goals, win their political battles. That's disgusting. You have officers' lives that get ruined because of lies. Because nobody wants to wait for all of the evidence to come out. Nobody wants to wait for all of the facts to come out. It's more important to push that narrative than to worry about that officer's life or the livelihood of his family. That's really disgusting stuff, folks. Really disgusting stuff. For months now. I mean, come on, give me a break. For months. This is a no-knock warrant. This is a no-knock warrant. We need to talk about in police reform. We need to talk about and getting rid of no-knock warrants. Well, why do you think that's the case? How many times have our officers had to go into trap houses, all right? If you don't know what a trap house is, that's where they keep all the drugs and all the guns and all the money, which is what these officers believed was happening with Breonna Taylor's house, her apartment. Officers, after announcing their presence, have been fired upon. And mind you, this didn't even happen in this case. They announced themselves. And how do you know this? Because there was a neighbor right next door that heard the officers say, "Hey, police, we're entering." These officers have been put through the ringer for months. They've been called murderers. They've been doxxed. They've been harassed. Their family members have been harassed. Also, Jay-Z can get a few extra likes on Twitter, or Beyonce. Or that Kamala Harris can go out there demonizing our police. That's truly disgusting. And as far as the black community is concerned, how often are we going to fall for this crap? Do you really want to believe this country is so viciously racist? Do you really want to believe that our cops are just so damn brutal? Look, I love my mother. Let me tell you something. I love my mother. She did the best she could raising me growing up. But you know what? You know what she told me? And I know it's not just me. My mother told me that for every good cop, there are 10 bad cops. And I argued it with her. I said, "Come on, Ma, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous." But it's not just my mother that said that. There are a lot of black mothers out there and grandmothers saying the same thing. And now if you're a young kid out there today and you're on Instagram, you're on Twitter, you're on Facebook, and your favorite celebrity who's protected by the police when they go on the road, or who has their own private security, hey, listen, you got to be careful. You're being hunted in the streets. The police officers are purposely looking out to kill you. What do you think that does to the psyche of young black men and women in the streets today? I know what it did for my psyche. You got to understand. When I was growing up in a black household, in the black community, these are things that are said over and over and over again. These are perspectives that are burned deep into your mindset, deep into your brain. And even when you're presented with facts to the contrary, it's hard to believe it. It's almost like saying God doesn't exist if you're a fervent believer of the word. How do you think a young kid's going to react? Why do you think young people today are reacting so harshly towards the police? Or why they're so easily buying the argument that we need to disband our police forces around the country? Because they are falling prey to these vicious lies. This is not helping anybody. This is not going to make black people safer. It's going to make them less safe. When you start losing respect for the police based off of lies, when you're being asked to comply, and you're saying, well, to hell with that, who the hell are you? Well, he's the police. There's a certain level of authority here. Black people don't think about that.